So, everyone, I was telling everyone last week, I wanted you to focus on your third eye. Well, I got some information about this. And, I felt like when I was focusing, this is just me, I hope it's not you, but when I was focusing on my third eye, it felt blocked a little bit or fuzzy, or like I felt like the window was fogged up or something. So that was kind of what I was feeling. And then I remembered something really important. A while ago, we had the man who heads up the Edgar Cayce Institute. I think it's Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. He came to Dallas and gave a little talk at one of my friends' house. And one thing that he said, he mentioned about the third eye. But what he said was very interesting, and this really works. He said to do the Om. The Om, when we do Om, and you hold on to that vibration of that sound, and you focus on the third eye, it opens it. And so I started practicing that, and I felt a huge clearing. I felt like all of a sudden it was sort of like shaking off the dust or whatever was blocking my clarity. And here's another thing. When you're thinking about this, I found that you're going to find when you do the Om and you hold on to that vibration of that sound and you focus on your third eye, you'll start to feel your third eye vibrating. At least I did. And I think you all will. But another thing about it, I noticed also when I imagined doing the Om without actually doing the sound, it worked as well. So when you visualize the Om, maybe let's say you're around a bunch of people and they'll think you're crazy if you start doing this Oming, right? Something's not right with this person. You can visualize it in your mind and you'll feel that vibrational frequency on the third eye. And I have to tell you, some of the things my vision's been opening just because of this little exercise. And so I think if you start doing it, you're going to find the same result. And we'll do that today. When we do our 3 breaths, instead of just the breaths, we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to do Om 3 times. And I want you to think about that vibration in your head, opening, focus it in the third eye. And I'm telling you, you're going to feel it. So, but yeah, for a long time ago, the man that I saw him on Ancient Aliens one time, but he runs the whole Edgar Cayce Center, and that was the most important thing that he came in his talk to tell us all about. So when you meditate and you do the Om, that vibrational sound, I want you to open and focus it right here. You will feel a vibration. So with that, I know that we're being recorded. Usually I don't record when we do our meditation, but today we are. And, I thought, well, there's a lot of, on YouTube, there's a lot of videos where they have the Om vibration, where you can focus on that. But I think it's much better when you have it going on in yourself, where that actual vibration of that sound is opening the third eye. So let's close our eyes. And let's do our breath work, breathing in, but when we exhale, so breathe in the white light, but we're going to do the Om after that, and we're going to focus on that vibration, just that vibration when you do it, focusing in on the third eye. So let's all do this together. So let's take a deep breath. Another breath with an Om. Third one, deep breath. Okay, did you guys feel anything? I did. I mean, you feel that. You feel that vibration of the Om activating, and it's you feel that vibration here. You do. And I'll tell you, something came to me this morning about doing this. It came to me that there was two different times that popped in my mind when I absolutely knew something. And it was like, there was no maybe, kind of, sort of, and I know all of you have had this experience too. But I'll give you two of my examples. They're kind of silly, but hey, they're about activating our vision to see things. So I used to go to this, his name was Dr. Park, and he was Korean, and he did acupuncture. That's what he did. It's been a long time since I've seen Dr. Park, but he did acupuncture, and he was really in tune. And one day when I looked into his eyes, there was this vibrational frequency between he and I, just when I looked into his eyes. And it just popped in my head that just the way that our eyes were in sync or something. I knew his birthday, and his birthday was my birthday. And I knew it. It wasn't like maybe, kind of, sort of. It was like he was born, it just came to me. He's born November 8th. I know that. And I didn't say anything to him. I probably should have. But when I left the office, I turned to the secretary and I said, "What is Dr. Park's birthday?" And she went to her little records and she looked it up. It was November 8th. How I knew that? There was just this frequency that I tuned into, and I knew it. It was just like a knowing that is all knowing, right? And then I thought about it. These things were coming to me today. And I thought about another time. I remember being in this restaurant with my parents, and particularly my mother. She was a real estate agent. And there was this contest in her office that they had put their names in a hat, and whosever name that they pulled out of the hat was going to win $25,000. So this was probably what, maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, something like that. But automatically when she told me that, I knew it wasn't like, kind of, sort of, I knew she was going to win it. And I looked at her and I said, "You're going to win that." And she looked at me. My mother was born around the same time I was. My mother was really psychic. And she looked at me, and it was like that gaze where it's just so definite. She says, "I know." Of course she won it. But how did we just tune into those things? Why is it we can't do that all the time? What is this? And I'm sure Kelly knows better because she is a psychic and she works with that. But it's just like, how do we tap into that? So there's a reason why those two experiences, I was reminded of them today, because I believe through opening up our vision with the third eye, we're all going to be getting these experiences. And these experiences are not necessarily anything that's going to change the world, but these are just confirmation that we can do this. but most of all, that we're going to get vision about the things that are important. And that is pretty much, it kind of was revealed to me, get ready, because you're going to be getting information and you're going to be kind of channeling stuff, you know, information that's important. And so in my meditation today, I had a little vision. Well, not a vision, you know how your mind just opens and you start thinking certain things, but these were things that were beyond my capacity of the ordinary thinking. And what popped in my head was a black hole and how the black hole energy works. And of course, you kind of think about, I started thinking, well, Pluto is the planet in our solar system that is the last planet, the furthest away, but it's the frontier to space, outer space, other galaxies, other worlds, other dimensions, and other galaxies. So I thought about, what is the meaning of Pluto? Transformation, death, okay? And we're all pretty much, you know, nobody is like totally unafraid of death, because we don't know what's on the other side. What we don't know is fearful. But what was told to me is that each star is, it's like our galaxy, and not our galaxy, but our solar system, each star. And each star is almost like an entity in and of itself, just like our sun. And I don't think we put enough credit to the sun being like this powerful, you know, like the American Indians always prayed to the sun. Many ancient cultures prayed to the sun. The sun gives us life. The sun is an entity, is what I was kind of, all the stars are kind of like an entity. But when a star dies, it becomes a black hole. And so when this light of the stars is extinguished and it becomes a black hole, it becomes this vacuum that sucks everything around it into it. But what I was told, and I think scientists have pretty much said the same thing, is when things are sucked into that black hole, it becomes a vacuum, exactly like going through the death process. And what is on the other side is another dimension, exactly what happens when we die. We go through that vacuum, that hole. And I kind of got the vision that it was like the circular movement of a tornado, but everything sucked into that circular movement and sucked in, and out on the other side is another dimension. And that's what happens when we go through the death process. And in this other dimension, it is, you know, completely different. But I got that all these stars are like that vacuum to other dimensions. And that is why the stars are so important. We don't really think of them as being as important as they truly are. They're entities. And it's like, you know, that's why, and it kind of came to me, that's why the older cultures would build structures in alignment to the stars, because they knew the value of these entities and their meanings. And then it helped me realize, well, that's one of the reasons why I went into Vedic astrology, because it's based on the stars. Sidereal means star. And the stars, their movement is so important, and their movement is constant. And that's what the whole processional process is with the movement of the stars, that in Vedic astrology, that the stars are, it's true to the stars. In other words, when you look at the fixed stars, such as Regulus, it is, in Vedic astrology, we look at it as being in early Leo, about 5-6 degrees of Leo. Western astrologers think it is in Virgo now, but you see, the stars are constant, and the stars will stay in that region that represents the signs that we know of, and it doesn't change. So in other words, as the stars are moving And of course, our planets are going to be in different constellations based on the stars' movement. That's why the zodiac has shifted backwards almost 24 degrees, because the movement of the stars, but the stars stay constant relative to their energies. So you're never going to have Regulus in Virgo. You're never going to have Antares, which is the tail of the scorpion or the heart of the scorpion. You're never going to have it in Sagittarius like the Western astrologers believe. So they stay constant. And I think what's important, one that we're going to talk about today, is going to be Aldebaran, because that is right there in the middle of Taurus, about 15, 16 degrees of Taurus. And that's pretty much where the moon is transiting today. That's why I wanted to talk about Aldebaran. Very powerful star. It's called the red one. And actually it's called the red one because it's the eyes of the bull. And the bull's eyes are red, according to the ancients. But Aldebaran really does flavor the meanings of Rohini, which is actually Rohini in Vedic astrology. That nakshatra is actually called the red one. So you can see how these ancient cultures aligned with the stars, and the stars in Vedic astrology, it's true to the stars. So the stars are going to stay in these signs that represent, even when we talk about Regulus is in the nakshatra in Vedic astrology. Not that I'm giving you a class in any of this, but I just want you to say they stay true to the stars. But Regulus, around 6 to 5 degrees of Leo, sits in the nakshatra Magha, which symbol is a throne. Think about the meaning of Leo. Leo is the king, right? So it will always stay true to those meanings. And so all of the constellations and stars, we will, I think, connect more to them in our meditations and understand more what the stars are trying to tell us. And I don't just mean astrology. I mean like the ancients that used to build all their structures in alignment to the stars. And they gave praise to the Pleiades or the stars that were in that grouping that really constitutes, not completely, but the signs. But I thought this was so interesting that I'm starting to get these messages about the stars. And here, there's no accident why I'm an astrologer, I guess, but I started to get information about stars. So I'm sure more will come, and I'm going to hear back from you guys, because as we practice these meditations throughout the day, vibrating that third eye, we're all going to be getting visions. I'm not special in any way. We all have the same power, and we're all going to be getting these visions. And I believe in this class, we're going to be sharing them, which is going to be amazing. Like I said, this class is really a class of miracles. So that was something I wanted to share with everyone that came to me today. Maybe you're going to get more information, maybe something different, maybe adding on to what came to me today, why I got that. I just know I want to open up my vision so that I can see clearly and know the truth and not be deluded by whatever's going on in this world right now. And the truth, here was something else that came to me, that there is a universal God or oneness of God, and it sits beyond these universes. It sits beyond, but when you are sucked into the death process or the black hole, it goes through that vacuum and into the oneness of God. That's what was revealed to me too. And like these vacuums, they kind of make a circular round where they go back through. And, that's probably the reincarnational process of us being reborn back through. But it all goes through to the universal divine one, and then back through. And then it distributes through all the stars. And as the stars are the universe, but you see this vacuum and the circular movement actually depicts that the universe is endless, and this going back through represents that there's no beginning, there's no end. and it's all within this process of the circle. But those are the things that came to me today. Now, let's look at the messages I'm getting today, which, like I said, this is kind of confusing, but I think I know what it means. Remember, I'm pulling from my book of symbols, right? So let me, yeah, I think you can see this. Can you see this clearly? Is the whole screen this picture that y'all are looking at? Good. All right. So what is this? This is, to me, where everyone has a mask on. Many years ago, that's what kind of masks they used to wear, not the cloth ones that we've been wearing. But what does that mean to you? To me, it's like everyone is following suit. Everyone's doing the same thing. But you know what I think that means? Fear. I think it has a lot to do with fear. We're all convinced to be a part of this fear, this mass consciousness of fear. And when we put our masks on, what does that do? That disconnects us from other people, because what are we doing by the fact of having this mask? We're making ourselves about where we can't really connect to others anymore. But it is, I think this is a mass consciousness of fear going on the planet. And I'm sure you guys are going to see something else that I missed with this, because there's more to it, I'm sure. So to me, why would they wear a mask in the first place? I'll tell you why, because there's disease or something that they have to block themselves from in our world and society. And that's not a good thing, disease. So what is it, this mass fear? Fear is what really causes disease, and disease causes fear. So it goes both ways. So does this mean that we're all in this right now, even though, we're kind of post-pandemic, we're still full of all the fears on this planet? That's what I get from that picture. So now on the opposite side, this is going to really confuse you guys. I got this picture. And what does this mean? You know what it could mean? This is a very religious picture. It's a mass going on. M-A-S-S, not mask, a mass, a religious ritual, right? And people are all in there doing their ritual, their prayers, and it's very organized. And maybe it's just that, hey, a lot of the religions have been used to create fear in our lives and control us. But maybe there's a deeper meaning, that when we come from our beliefs, this to me represents our beliefs. When we come from a place of our beliefs, and our beliefs are full of fear, they're going to control us, and we're not going to open to the truth. That's kind of what I see here. Because, when I was in Europe, about 3 months ago, they were constantly talking about all the old religions and how they, they were fighting and killing each other. And I thought, how can something that's supposed to be spiritual and supposed to help people, bring people together, separate and kill people for so long? So I think what's being revealed to us through the imaging is how we control ourselves through our beliefs. And then I opened up the book of the power, and I got this message: what do you believe? So this is like really helping us understand. And here's an old proverb from King Solomon. He said, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is be." That's not very good English, is it? But you get the drift here. So what we think, what we believe, that's what we create in our life. That's exactly what this message is telling me. So if you are full of fear, if you're angry, if you're upset, if you think I'm going to be sick, and here's actually what it says: what you think in your heart is what you believe to be true. Okay? Beliefs are simply repeated thoughts with strong feelings attached to them, like, I catch colds easily. I have a sensitive stomach. I find it hard to lose weight. I'm allergic to that. Coffee keeps me awake. All these beliefs are not facts. So so it says a belief is when you have made up your mind, the verdict is in, and you've nailed the door shut and thrown away the key, and there's no room for negotiation. That's a belief. But whatever you believe and feel is true will be true for you. Whether your beliefs help you or harm you, whatever beliefs you give out, the law of attraction says you must receive back. So, and then it goes on to say how many people have fearful beliefs about disease, um, and you can choose to have good beliefs about health. And guess what? You're going to attract. So here's another saying: for the thing that I fear comes upon me, and what I dread befalls me. That's something from the Bible, Job. Anyway, I think that the power kind of cleared up what this was trying to tell me, don't you think? It's about how powerful our beliefs are. And we can change them. So this is definitely, this is definitely about our beliefs. This is deep, deep seated. When we're growing up as kids and we have to go to church, and, they tell us we're going to go to hell if we do this, that, and the other. What does that create? It creates a lot of fear. Especially when you're little and you believe everything the grown-ups are telling you. We don't have anything else to base it on. And that stuff sticks in us our whole life, whether we know it or not. It's unconscious, but it's all about fear. And that's why all those things people told us. But we have the choice to change our beliefs right now. And that is going to be what's going to change our life. Okay. So that's pretty much a really deep and profound message, I think, today. I don't know why this is coming up with this full moon that's due tomorrow. And we're going to look at the chart for this full moon, because it's an amazing full moon. It lines up with Mars and the sun. Exactly. I'll show it to you in a minute. But there's something going on here, and it does involve the stars that are in the sign of Taurus. And so that's where we're going to talk about when we go to looking at the chart, the prashna for what I pulled up, to help us better understand what's going on in our lives in the world, so that we can work with it to change it if we don't like it. Work with it to use that energy for its highest good. So I want to open up the communications here and get anything else that you guys might have seen in these two pictures that are giving us the message that we need right now. Anyone want to comment on this? I know you guys are good with this.
Excuse me. So, I didn't grow up in the Catholic Church. So what I saw when you had these two images is, our fear-based society and the chaos that we're living in, and just listening to the news every day and reading the newspapers. And I mean, visually, that picture sort of symbolizes to me what that fear-based society looks like and how crazy it's been. Yeah. But when you showed the other photo, for me, immediately, I felt a sense of sanctuary. Mm-hmm. And I think it's sort of what my guides have been talking about for so long, which is that, as much as we can disentangle from that outer reality and connect with that 5D vibrational love connection, then we can find that alignment, we can find that clarity, we can find that wisdom. And I felt a sense of sanctuary with that second picture, because it it seemed sort of like the heart chakra to me. And again, I mean, I don't have the connection to the church, so I didn't feel like that didn't vibrate that way. It vibrated to me as a sense of sanctuary. And I think, and I hear this message for me, especially as I'm going through all the stuff I'm going through, that it's really important to stay connected with that 5D. And you remind me, and I'm laughing because I teach meditation. I'm a channel. I'm kind of frozen here. Uh-oh, did I lose you?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Um, just how important it is to do that meditation practice and to do the practices that we do that help really create a sense of calm and whatever our spiritual practice that reminds us of that really connected vibration, which isn't about the chaos and the static and the drama that's going on around us. Because everybody on this call here, we're leaders and we're teachers, and we're in the forefront of the collective consciousness, and we're leading in our own way, whatever that may be.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what I saw. I just wanted to share it.
Yeah, and looking at this picture, I mean, it's beautiful. Those churches in Europe are so beautiful. I think it looks like it's in Italy or something with all those paintings. But what I think we can get out of this is it's about our beliefs. And Deborah, you look at this as going into prayer and devotion and everything that, most people think when they go to church, that's what they go to church for. But no matter what the power said sums it all up. It's about our beliefs. This is our beliefs. So our beliefs in the spiritual, in the religious, whatever it may be, is what's going to give us, like you say, peace over this. So I love your message. So one way or another, that the key word I think about this is belief. And that's what the power said. So your belief is this, your sanctuary, your healing, going within, prayer, meditation. And you know what I kind of get out of this picture is tradition. That's why I brought it back to the tradition of what I experienced in Catholicism, because there's so much tradition in the masses. And really what it's about is ritual and ceremony. So if you think of it in terms of rituals, this can mean us doing our own rituals, right? Our own rituals and our own work in our meditation to heal the fear that's going on out there. So thank you. That is beautiful what you brought in. And regardless if you saw something, maybe I have to heal my negative beliefs so that I can bring in the positive of the law of attraction. Because what I'm putting out there, if I'm going to sit there and think, oh my God, then all these religions are bad and they're hurting people, guess what I'm going to attract? So good point. We got to start attracting, that we got to change our beliefs to positive and what we want to attract and what we want to manifest in our lives. So that's very important that we take note of our beliefs and those fearful ones that are controlling the world right now. We can't let this keep happening to ourselves. So what else did you guys see in this?
Joni, hi, it's Michelle.
Hi.
Yeah, what I see is, I don't know if people are familiar with Brene Brown, but she wrote a book on leadership. And one of the styles of leadership that she talks about is leading by fear. And it's the leadership style that politicians and governments use to control people. And so it seems like whenever there's this mass hysteria of something, it's being generated first by politicians and the government, and then the media gets used as a propaganda machine to, spread it further. So the whole point behind that is to control everybody. So back in, I think that picture was probably from World War I, World War II, something like that back in the day. So they were having biological warfare, or not biological warfare, but chemicals coming in, and so everybody had to mask up. And this is kind of the same thing with the COVID. They made everybody mask up. And it's a way of controlling people. Well, people would do it because they were afraid of catching the disease, number one. But then number two, it also muffles you. It's kind of a symbol, the mask, because now your whole mouth has been covered up. You can't really communicate. You also lose your identity because part of your face is not showing. And so it just kind of demotes everybody into like this. I think it looks like we're like being herded, as cows or something. And our individual identities are trying to smush down our individual identities. And because that's when we have our own individual identities and we have our own self-worth, we're empowered, and we don't fall for these tricks in ways that they try to control us. So the mask represents shutting people up, not letting them speak their truths, trying to herd them all, separate them, because if you're not speaking, you're not communicating, so you're separate. So there's not the unity. And then the symbol of the church can be, I think, taken two different ways. One can be that's another form of control, because religion, also different forms of religion, try to scare you into following their beliefs. Or it can also mean that if you have faith and you believe in your higher power, whatever that is for you, you will not become subject to this fear or being controlled by other people.
Perfectly said. You summed it all up for us. Fantastic. Anybody else see something?
Hi there, everybody.
Hi, Kelly.
I just want to add in a few bits. One, I think that I'm agreeing with everything that everybody's saying, but I'm seeing aspect with those two pictures is that one, control, right? Fear, right? We're all talking about that. I went to Trader Joe's yesterday. I'm like, am I missing something? People are masking up. Like, you know what I mean? This was, I was still seeing that. I'm like, pregnant pauses you because it's like, okay, we know the masks don't work. Stop. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And this process is, again, that fear-based aspect of everything that has been thrown at us. So the processing. But what I find interesting is what I saw and what I actually wrote about in my book, Spirit Speaks Within You, is exactly this. Like, take away your fear, because this is what's being thrown on you. Be your individual self. I will say this much, intellectually and spiritually, what I got from Spirit is the only good thing about that pandemic is that it forced us to be more spiritual people. So when I saw that two dialogues of those two pictures, that's really the good stuff that came out of the pandemic, is people going internal to be spiritual. So that was the reminder to me of those two pictures.
Mhm.
Interesting enough is that this morning, when you were talking earlier about, the aspect of where we go and the other side, and how this processes work, and the stars and everything alignment. So we must have been on the same page, because out of the blue, my good friend Bridget Benson showed up. And Bridget Benson was a fabulous medium. She was Irish. She was Irish, and she lived in England. And she could go down a street and point out to me, Kelly, over there, somebody was murdered. Oh, over here, this was, she was on 24/7. She was just a phenomenal medium. And she died 2 years ago. So as I'm making my coffee this morning, she decides to show up. And I said to her, so Bridget, what's it like on the other side? And she said to me, it is something that you cannot believe. And when you experience it, it is the purest love that you've ever felt. And you know what? That's really how it is. And you know what? And so the things that you were describing today, and I thought, oh my gosh, look, Bridget's a part of this class too. You know what I mean? She's coming in, I'm giving them the information off from her. It doesn't surprise me.
Mhm.
But again, you know what? I think you're right. This whole new moon and everything that's shifting us, people are going, all the readings I've been doing have been super deep. And people are reflecting from past and what am I doing now? And how do I go forward? And you know what? And taking all the stuff that they haven't dealt with in ages and it's coming back like, I haven't thought about this thought in years or centuries, right? Or, you know, decades of things. And this is where this whole epitome is like, what's next? You know, and that's that part where we're looking at fear and we're looking at spiritualism. So my suggestion is, you know what, go into your links when you're going into the Om and your meditation and tell your guides to give you the signs that you need. You give them a sign and they'll give it right back to you. And that's the best way when you because you see you're like this clear channel and you've gone through the cobwebs like you talked about, like getting all that out of your centering there. And that's kind of why you're a cobwebby, if there's such a word. You know what I mean? Because it made you clean out a little bit when you were doing that. That's what I picked up on that exercise when you were talking earlier. And but that's really, really helpful, is just to go in before the meditation and say, okay, I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to clear myself out. We're going to connect with spirit. But I want you to give me a sign that's going to make this spot on and it's going to make me feel right. Because we always question. So that component is really spirit, like, oh my God, she just sees a sign. Okay, we'll give it to her. So truly throw that to your processes and watch how amazing that is. That's pretty cool when you can confirm with that. Just
That's
my
great.
little tidbit. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. That's great. Great advice to ask for the spirit, the guides to give us a sign, you know, make it real. Give us something.
I like that too. It reminded me of the sacrament. You know, when you go to church, there's that sacrament. And that's kind of what you guys are saying is let's have that communication, that communion, you know, and make that something you do every day or every week. But yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, thank you.
I have to bring up, Joni, when you were doing the Om, I was quiet and I actually just wanted to listen to you. And it in the microphone, I don't know if anybody picked this up, but it really continued on and it resonated. And so it elongated and it was beautiful. And I think that's kind of like maybe the perception of how we resonate to the world. Like we don't recognize the energy that we're putting out. And so when you see that mask, all those masks, to me, that points out what kind of energy does that throw to us, right? It makes us concerned and stuff like that. And then an opposite of when you go to church and maybe you're like going to get one with God, you know, it's such an opposite feeling. So anyway, that was my pull away. It wasn't anything great, but other than the fact that I loved listening to you do that. And I can see how, just like the crystal, when you rub the crystal of a glass, that sound you were able to make, so simple, resonated just like that would. And you can see how that would penetrate the people around you. So.
Thank you. That's amazing. And yeah, I love the way you interpreted the church, because that's true. You know, it's our sacrament, or it's something special. It's something going within, and that alleviates the fear.
I just have one little thing to add on, because those are all great pieces of information. What I saw in the first picture was that those men with the mask on, they didn't look scared at all. Like they were like, that's the first thing that hit me, was that feeling of being safe and being calm. And the way I interpret that is that whatever makes you feel safe is good for you. And if you're the type of person who doesn't want to wear a mask, then you should be allowed to not wear one and be okay. One of my patients the other day said, Joan, I didn't know you very long, but I knew when COVID was here and you never wore a mask, you treated everybody and whatever, you never wore a mask. She says, I knew you were never going to get COVID. And I said, I know. I just, like, I had no fear in me. There was no fear. I just didn't want to be muzzled. And there's the symbolic part of it. If the patient really wanted me to wear it, I would, out of respect for them, but not out of respect for a government directive saying everybody has to because we said so. And I said, no. So that's what I got from it, was that if you feel safe, then you do it for you, because that will help you. Same thing with, I think, people who believe in medicines. If they think it's going to help them, it will. If people don't believe in medicine and you force them to take a medicine, it's probably going to make them sick. So they have to make sure that they're going with what they believe in. And the picture itself, I saw that as being the advertising of only one side of the story. You didn't see the other side with nobody with masks on with a happy face, you know? So it's, again, how the government can control us through what they decide the media is going to do. And then the second picture with the church, that was for me right away, conditioning. So conditioning, because when you want to control the masses, like saying, you know, herding the cows, when you condition everybody, it's a lot easier to herd them and make them do what you want. Now try to herd cats. That's not easy at all, because everybody's got their own ideas and stuff. So I figure that as long as the church is going with your original beliefs, then it's fine and it's good and we can get the good out of it. But are they really going with your original beliefs? Or are you like me when I was a 5-year-old? I never went to church very much, but as a 5-year-old, them telling you you're a sinner and everything, I'm like, really? I didn't resonate with me at all. And I never went to church after, only for certain things, but it wasn't because it didn't resonate with me. So I figured that if you go that route, if the conditioning or whatever the rituals are good for you, you feel good about it, then continue. That's good for you. But if it's not, if it goes against you, it doesn't resonate, you need to find out what your real beliefs are and shift towards them and be true to yourself. And I was writing the words, you need to find out what you believe at exactly the time when you said from the power, you need to find out what you believe in. So it was so funny that it just came out exactly as I was writing it. So yeah.
That's so interesting that, you know, really, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together till I opened the power, and I thought, oh, it's about our beliefs, and what we believe we create. And yeah, you're right, Joan, they're not scared. I didn't even think to look at that. They're all pretty content with what they're doing, all of them. So, and it is kind of like everyone looks the same. They're all men. They're all facing the same direction. It's kind of like you said, this herding in a way. It looks like a herding of people. Yeah, but fascinating how my book of symbols can really pick up on what we need to focus in on for the week. So you know what your homework is this week, to really meditate and do the Om and concentrate on what your beliefs are, and let's make our beliefs positive, not negative, not fearful, because whatever we believe, we're going to attract into our lives. That's what we got to remember. Okay, so let me and we can continue to share, but let me share the screen and we're going to look at the chart of what's going on in the world. So as you know, a Prashna chart is when you pull up a chart for the time that you want to know the answer to anything. And so this is for when we started our class, 12 noon Central Standard Time. And it's December 6, 2022. We know that December 7th is the full moon in Taurus. I know. I don't know how many people on my YouTube told me I was wrong. The moon is not in Taurus. So I didn't even bother to correct them. I do Vedic sidereal astrology, but you know, I just never mind. Because tropically, it's in Gemini. People just don't even, who in the world would do a YouTube, an astrologer that's been around for 40 years on the wrong placement of where the moon is? It's just, but of course they don't know who I am, but anyway. So here is this right now. And we, of course, have that Mars retrograde. Now, when you look at the full moon tomorrow, the sun is going to be 21 degrees. The moon is going to be 21 degrees, because what is a full moon when the sun and the moon are in exact opposition? They're going to be 21 degrees, and Mars will back up to 21 degrees of Taurus. So this is such an interesting full moon that we have Mars retrograde smack dab tied up with the sun and the moon. Exactly. And I'll pull up the well, that was in the astrology class. We looked at declination last week, but the declination means when a planet is totally aligned, and the sun and the moon and Mars are going to cross over their total alignment, where they're on top of each other, which means actually an occultation. So it's really that Mars is being occulted or eclipsed by this full moon. And so Mars, first of all, being retrograde is so profound, so deep. It's bringing up all these old issues of fear or anger. And we've got to look them straight in the eye and let them go, because we have been controlled by our beliefs for so long. And now it's time for us to better understand. And when we do our meditations, ask that you get the answer. What in the world is this about? What are we supposed to be learning from this, personally in your own life? But something's happening here with this eclipse. I'm going to do something for Instagram after this, talking about the eclipse, but I think people should stay home, and it's not necessarily that there's going to be some, danger, but there could be. Mars is weapons in danger. And actually, even on the 8th, a friend of mine, Juliana Swanson, she did a beautiful article about this full moon. And she talks about on the 8th is when Mars actually aligns in declination and with the sun and the moon. So it's not just that the energies here for the full moon on the 7th, it's also relevant, very relevant on the 8th. So these 2 days are very, very potent. They're aggressive. Mars is aggressive. It's in the sign of Taurus. And this is, as I keep saying, aligned with the Pleiades. It's going to be in Rohini. And Rohini is the red one. It's aligned actually with the star Aldebaran, which is a very powerful star, but they can be violent. Mars is violent. So be aware that, people are going to be angry. Let me just put it that way. Whether violence breaks out or not, people are going to be angry. And you just got to, let's just stay home for that night. And if you have a clear sky, it's okay to go out and look at the full moon and talk to it. It's just like I said, the planets and the stars have an energy, almost like a being. Ask that it reveals what you need to know to heal your life. That's all. That's what I'm going to ask for. Give me some answers that will heal my life. So this full moon and, the sun being in Scorpio is profound. So the sun actually sits in the sign that Mars rules. So that's empowering as well. This is like the sun is the bright energy. It's our spirit. And it's in the deepest, darkest sign of the zodiac. I say that because Scorpio is the 8th sign, and it's relative to the 8th house, which is where we go into what's beyond this world, death. And that's kind of what we talked about a little bit at the beginning of this class when I was getting these visions of the black holes. So Scorpio is the sign of rebirth and death. So this is what this full moon is going to bring about, a death, but a rebirth. And You know, it's like when you go to the other side, like Kelly was saying, her friend, it's like this pure, unconditional love. And I got the same thing from my friend that passed on that spoke to me. She told me, you can't even imagine it. It's beyond your comprehension. Don't, you know, whatever you think you know, it's way beyond that. Because she said that with our physical brains or minds, or it was impossible for us to understand it. So but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beyond our comprehension of beauty and grace and love unconditionally. That's what it is. So there's no reason to be scared of anything when you know this. But moving on over to where Mercury and Venus sit, because Mars and the moon sit in Venus's sign, Taurus is ruled by Venus, this becomes very profound. And I find that Venus and Mercury are sitting in Sagittarius in the nakshatra Mula, which is aligned with the galactic center. And Mula is the root. It's like the root cause of things, that its symbol is a gathering of roots, that nakshatra. But what I find interesting is around 5-6 degrees, and all of this is truly aligned with the galactic center. And the galactic center is powerful. Oh my God. So there's something really powerful that's coming to our planet. And probably it's nothing that's in the news or that you're going to see, but a powerful energy for transformation. That's what we all need to know. And so don't tie it up with what's going on in the news. We all know media is, you know, since the beginning of time, they controlled the masses, and they will continue to do so no matter what is brought out. It's just the name of the game, you know. People that have money can control and pull the shots, and that's what it's all about. But that shouldn't be our focus. Our focus is that we are able to transcend all of this, like I got from the black hole energy. Beyond the black hole is the center of the universe, and that is the oneness. That is the divine, and it is so much more powerful than any of the elites or whoever they are that are controlling the world right now. It's so much more powerful. So we got to jump to that power and that energy, because it's way beyond, much more powerful than any of this nonsense that's going on our planet. Remember that when you get tied up with all the foolishness that's projected out there to us all from everybody. Now Saturn's going to go into Aquarius pretty soon. I think that's going to be very hopeful. Aquarius is the sign of invention, and I think, you know, I did a little video on Saturn being in Aquarius. I don't know when it'll come out, probably in the next couple of weeks or so, but when Saturn goes into the nakshatra Shatabishak, that's the 100 healers, also the Sky Watcher. But I think there's going to be some medical discoveries that are going to be amazing when Saturn transits in Aquarius. So we have that to look forward to. So it's not gloom and doom as the media will tell you it's all about. I see this year as being, you know, the economy and all that crap's going to be going on for a while, but I see this as a year of major breakthroughs. I mean, we've had Uranus traveling with, don't you hate this prosperous light, the way it does that? Anyway, I shouldn't say the word hate. I take that back. It's just, hey, I got to learn something through that, right? Anyway, Uranus and Rahu being together, and not in Aries, which is the beginning sign, and they're in the nakshatra Bharani that represents breakthroughs and new beginnings. That's what's due to happen this year. Just like Saturn going into Aquarius, this is another symbol of a great awakening and breakthroughs that are about to transpire in the world. So I think with Mars being retrograde right now, we have to go back and look at what it is in our own individual lives that we believe that is actually holding us back from this major breakthrough and transformation that's about to take hold of our world. We can tap into it. Most people will not want, that are asleep, not conscious, don't care. They're not going to feel the energy, but you will, because that's what we're all seeking. And we're going to transform and change. And yes, that will have a vibrational effect on the people that are asleep, and maybe they'll start wanting to know more about, why are we here? What is the purpose of life, instead of all of the confusion. So Jupiter is still at 4 degrees of Pisces. It's been stationing there for so long. It's going to start moving forward and picking up speed. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to see some progress with that. Jupiter is in the nakshatra Uttara Bhadrapada. That nakshatra can deal specifically with endings. It's in Pisces. And its symbol is the funeral cot, the back part of the funeral cot. So it does deal with endings, and possibly, there can be some deaths through maybe something, but like I've been saying, there's been so many violent attacks around the world, little ones, not big ones, just like, like those students that were killed in Utah, that I think, no, Idaho, I think. Am I wrong? Yeah, Idaho. Anyway, but those kind of things, there's little things all over. Shootings are still happening. People are angry about something. And we have to attest to what our angers are about, to alleviate them, to send out a vibrational field to the world, to let go of this past, what we're angry about, and heal it. We're all here for the same purpose, and that's to heal our lives and to become aware of who we really are. And who we really are is our divine connection to the oneness of God. That's who we really and truly are, but we can't see it with all the illusion here. But let me just say this, with Venus and Mercury going through Mula is sort of like that galactic center. Here's another thing that just came to me. In the nakshatra of Mula is actually where there are more black holes than any other place in our universe. So black holes are that energy of transformation and change, going through to the other vibrational frequency of definitely, what happens when we go through that death process, what happens to go to other dimensions. So I think this is a fabulous time for meditation, knowing that Mercury, which is the planet that rules our thinking process, Venus, which can rule love and relationships, these are the things that we're here to really work on and transform during these times. And that is what Mars in Taurus, the ruling planet of Taurus is Venus, is about: healing our past relationships. And maybe it's not just about love. It's about our relationships, how we relate to one another. That's going through a deep, dark, transformational change right now. And yeah, those black holes being there. Another thing came when I was thinking about black holes, but I don't know where this is leading me. It made me start thinking about my old friend, Philip Sedgwick. Probably nobody knows who he is. He's a Western astrologer, but I brought him to my center back in the 90s, early 90s, to do a talk on heliocentric astrology. And what Philip did, if anyone knows him, he used to go to the Western conferences, and he was our stand-up comedian. He was that funny. He was really, but he was like, he was off the wall. But one thing about Philip, and actually he was born on my birthday, we had that connection, but Philip talked about the sun. Instead of the earth as the center, the sun is the center. Helio means sun. And but what he did was, I don't know how he did this, but he actually created an ephemeris, and he handed out many pages of this ephemeris in this class. And ephemeris, by the way, is where all the planets are, you know, the signs that they're transiting through. But in that ephemeris, he had where all the black holes were, and the pulsars and the quasars, and all of, he took into his astrology readings, which is impossible to me, these things that are out there, such as pulsars, quasars, black holes. You know, I don't know how that can even be interpreted, but I just want to say this, that this goes so much deeper when you talk about the black holes and where things are. And when you talk about heliocentric astrology, it actually is the same. There's no such thing as sidereal or tropical. It's all the same. And so maybe we should start looking at the sun as the center, because it is the spirit and the soul. And yeah, more things are going to evolve out of that, the messages that I'm getting, I'm sure. But I want you guys to help me and do your meditations and share with me what you're getting as well. So, okay, so that's everything I wanted to say about the charts, the message. What does anybody else see, and what I pulled up for our messages? I think we have some really good information to work on this week, and don't forget to work on it. This is a class that's supposed to be powerful to change your lives, not just to sit in for an hour and forget it. Use these principles and use these messages to change your life. Okay. So any comments?
Yeah, I have a question, Joni. So I think in the summer, you sort of indicated that the end of the year was going to end on a bang.
Yeah.
And is it this full moon retrograde, Mars?
I think so. And I really think it's the whole time that Saturn is in Capricorn before it shifts to an Aquarius, which I believe that's on January 17th. So it's between now and January 17th that everything comes into its, you know, all this big bang stuff, that everything that's been surmounting and growing and growing and growing. And then this is the explosive event that it's all about. That's what I think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. We also had talked about Biden at some point having something to do with this particular time. I don't know if that's something we're keeping an eye on.
Well, looking at his chart, he's sick right now. I mean, I hate to say it. I feel really kind of bad about it for some reason. I feel really bad about this, because looking at his chart, K2 is still sitting exactly on his Mars in his birth chart. And oh, his dasha changed to Saturn. And Mars is going to station between now and January on his Saturn in the 7th house. And, you know, that's really depleting of, you know, energies. And, you know, it's in a 7th house. It could even be enemies, like, you know, maybe the United States having a problem. Like I did a video recently looking at Biden's chart very recently, because maybe, has that video come out? I think it has, yeah. But the reason why I bring this up is because when I look at a world leader, I'm not necessarily looking at their personal life. I'm looking at the country they're leading as well. So that goes for Xi Jinping for China, that goes for Putin for Russia, that goes to Zelensky for the Ukraine. When you read their chart, you're reading what's happening in their country. So you may think, why does she keep using Biden? Well, whoever's the president, that's who I'm going to keep using. And I did that with Trump, and I did that with Clinton. I did that with Bush, and everybody was always like, why are you? No, it's because it reflects the country. So this could be, you know, not just him, it could be what's going on in the country too. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Joni, I noticed that the rule of your chart is in Mula right now. So maybe that's the reason why your meditations are involving black holes.
That's funny. Good. Yeah, I could see that.
I do have a question, but I don't know if it's appropriate for this class. I did the declinations. I pulled up the declinations.
Yeah,
and
I
it,
did too.
okay. And it looked like the sun and Pluto were,
Exactly.
how is that possible when they're not even conjunct? Or,
That's why I'm telling you guys to look at the declination, because the declinations can be way off from a conjunction.
okay.
Yeah.
So
I
it doesn't
mean,
matter. Okay.
it doesn't matter. You're not going to see them. But when they come together, the declination and the conjunctions or the oppositions, that's when you see them occulted, like what we were talking about. But hey, if y'all didn't understand what we're talking about, don't worry about it. That was in an astrology class that Michelle's in last week.
Yeah.
But I sent Michelle Juliana's write-up about it, because we were talking about how declinations and conjunctions, lined up, and that was her whole message, talking about this full moon. I thought that was amazing that she pulled up all of what we were talking about in class with declination last week, and that Mars is, for those of you that don't know astrology, don't worry, but Mars by declination is right now out of bounds, which means things are out of control in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting article.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone else want to add anything to this, or any insights or something to help us with the week to come? Because I think we might need a little help.
I don't know if this helps, but it's Marcy. It's about Elon Musk doing the drops of what actually happened before the election. Not to bring politics into this.
Yeah.
This would be real, no matter what side you're on. It's really interesting.
It really is. I think it's totally interesting about, because everything that's reflected in the heavens is within us. We all feel it, but it's also whatever's within us is reflected outwardly on what's going on in the world. And so that's where it's like as above, so below, I always say. So you can see what's going on astrologically is affecting everything, world and individual. And even if you're cut off from the world and you don't know what's going on in the media and all that stuff, you're still going to feel this within yourself, angry about something from the past that you need to heal, But when we have that energy within us, the planets really do affect our moods and, how we think and the way that we're swayed. And, you can discount that all you want, but, in Vedic astrology, the planets are called grahas. And what that actually translates into something that takes hold of you or takes a grasp of you. And so, when Mars is doing something, we are more angry, but that conscious awareness can help us to shift our awareness so we don't have to be controlled by it or have that grasp of the planets. That's the beauty of knowing astrology, to help us know when things are going to be harder, to help us overcome it, or when things are going to be easier, to help us move forward and, put things out there, get things done. It's just, this is like the ebb and flow of the tides. We cannot deny that we aren't affected on what's going on in the world, and what most people don't understand with the planets. It's all this vibrational energy and we're all affected, but we can use it to our best advantage. That's what astrology is supposed to be for. No matter what astrology you use, whether it's Chinese or Western or Vedic or whatever, Mayan, it's all for the same purpose, to give us guidance in the dark. And that's another thing, not to throw this into Vedic, but when they said that, when they looked at the hymns of the Vedas, the ancient Vedas, this is one of the oldest references to astrology, because the Vedas are about 3,000 years old. And they made reference in the Vedas to it's like a hymn, because of course the Vedas were first of all passed on through oral tradition, because they didn't have the scriptures and the writing, but later on they wrote it all out. But it's like the body of man is how they make it relative. And there's like, they're called hymns. And each of the sciences are assigned to a certain part of the body of man, such as yoga. I can't remember if yoga is the arms of the body, or the lungs, the lungs and the arms. Yoga comes under that. And Ayurvedic medicine comes under a different domain of the body. But here's the beautiful part. Jyotish, which is what they call Vedic astrology in India, and actually astrologers are called Jyotishis, but Jyotish is astrology. And Jyotish is called in the Vedas, astrology, the eyes of man. So it's the eyes of the Vedas. And so what that tells me from the ancient scriptures, that astrology gives us sight in the dark, because it's actually, Jyotish also translates into the science of light, and it's astrology. So I thought that was really beautiful, that astrology can give us sight in the darkness where we can't see. And it's just a helpful tool, in other words. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so you know, you were talking about the sun earlier and talking about light now brings it back up. And about the astrology being based on the sun, which are the what was it?
Heliocentric.
Yeah, so there are people actually who brought up the violet flame that was brought up last week, but that yes, the sun is actually the center of the universe, and so that totally makes total sense. But then what you were talking about earlier about when you go through a black hole, then you come out to, you know, a whole nother world and they also believe in that too, and they call the center that creates all the different galaxies, everything, as a great central sun. So it all relates back to the sun. So maybe that will be the future of astrology, is basing it on the sun. And the planets actually go around the sun anyway, you know. So.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's food for thought. We can experiment with that a little bit. I have Philip's book, Heliocentric Astrology. Man, it's deep stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe this is taking everything to another level.
That'd be interesting to explore, really.
Yeah.
I just had a little comment on Uranus is 21 degrees. It's going to be at the same degree mark as Mars and the moon and the sun.
Wow. Good point. Because
then they have that uprising in China. It's a revolution of the people who have been really oppressed.
I love that you mentioned that, because I have a new book coming out. And in that book, I have a technique where I tell everyone to look at the degrees. And when any of them are the same degree, regardless the aspect or what house they're in, it connects those planets. And what you do to give an interpretation is you connect the meanings of the planets. So what is it? Uranus with moon, sun, and Mars. This is transformational change. Yeah. Excellent point. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you.
In the 12th house from Mars.
Yeah.
And emotional.
Yeah.
It could be spiritual transformation to help us out too.
I'll tell you something else too. The 12th house deals with dreams, you know, and I had a very, very vivid dream last night about my parents, and they've both been passed on. And we talked about this before, but anytime you start dreaming about people on the other side, it means something's about to happen. I dreamt of all these people from my past right before COVID hit, over and over and over again. And I was like, what are they trying to tell me? Something, but we're too dumb to get it, but we have all these tools, so maybe we will get it, especially talking about what Joan just brought up, Uranus and sun, Mars, moon, and it is in the 12th from Mars, moon. Interesting, the full moon. Okay. All right.
I just want to add, the whole time we were talking, what I was Oops, should I unmute or
Go ahead.
can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. we
Okay,
can-
sorry. All right. So the whole time you were chatting away, I kept hearing China, 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 China.
Wow.
And then on top of that, what I heard is I wanted to go, Spirit always wants to go backwards to go forward. Okay, they always do when I read for people. So I always go backwards to go forward to show the evidence. So I'd be really curious because what happened in September with China's chart to what is going on currently?
Mhm.
Because I feel like this is part of their last, like a bigger hit, okay, with the dynamics of the control of the world, control of people, control everything. So I go back September, and I'm not an astrologist, but I go to astrology in September with that country, and then I go what we're talking about this week. So
Well,
China,
actually,
what?
I did a YouTube on China. It hadn't come out yet. Maybe I should tell my the guy that's doing that's editing my videos to make that one come out, because I'm saying exactly what you're saying in that video.
Okay, so do it.
Yeah,
Because it's an important message.
it is.
Is what I'm getting with that too. There's also this component with this moon that's happening. You know, we talk about like the ending or death, or sure, I think always when there's a moon, there's people who transition. When babies are born, death happens also, right? With all moons, we know that. But in this space too, this is also a gigantic transition moon that's making people weed people out, and that's a form of death. It's like a divorce, right? When you realize your tribe isn't your tribe anymore, that's that transition. That's what I feel a lot of people are going to feel also within their own spaces of people that they know and the dynamics. So kind of be prepared for that, but don't be afraid of it, because it's actually the timing is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to put a spin on kind of a negative situation, but this is really important message for people to get to. So which is really good, really important on that aspect. But I go into, I'm not even concerned about Russia and Ukraine. I go right to China and all of this.
Me too. Absolutely. Because what I said, and I said this before in a previous video, that Xi Jinping, his sun sits at 0 degrees of Gemini, and the United States Mars sits at 0 degrees of Gemini. So looking at, countries and leaders, and transiting Mars is going to go over that point, not till March, but leading up to that, I get huge explosive events with China. I don't even think the Ukraine has anything going on.
No. So again, as you're saying that, the number 3 is important because we go 3 months back. That would take us September. Okay, you're going December, 3 months into March, right? Yeah. So 3 is always, remember, the number of trines, right? So it's like Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So again, that ties into what you pulled in the pictures. Yeah. All right. With this, and it's also the space where adding that into where you're going to see lots of this revelation, and Spirit wants me to go into the 12th.
Okay.
So I go this new moon, and then I fall into December 12th. Again, okay. I don't know anything about the astrology piece, but that's an important date to look at too.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. The whole rest of this month and the first few weeks of January are critical.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right, exactly. Okay, sorry, I just jumped on in. I didn't mean to say so much, but just they were nudging me to give it.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I appreciate the insight, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And it's funny because I thought the same thing. I'm not worried about Russia or Ukraine. It's just like my inner voice is saying they're not the issue.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
not at all. All right. Anyone else want to put some final words in? I think this was this class led itself, didn't it? It just went We didn't even know what was going to come out. It just, the universe, it talks to us. So this is an amazing class. We have a lot to think about. And yeah, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about next week. So tune in, because next week we're going to have lots more. We'll know a lot more too. Okay. And you guys will be getting a lot more in your meditations. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming on board with me today. And yeah, so have a great week and stay home tomorrow. Just, you know, order food in. Don't be going out on that full moon. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone. Have a great week.
Namaste. Thank
Hey,
you.
namaste.
Bye.
Bye.